the second biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Can I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Hello and welcome to episode 46 of PvA Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Luke Croft. Joining me, as always, freelance gaming journalist Cody Mellicline. Cody, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Nice to see your beautiful faces in person for the first time.
Yeah.
Just for the podcast.
Yeah, so we've got a special episode. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment, but I also want to let you know that we're being joined by the always visually stunning Larry Hunt.
Hi.
Oh, bringing back the old Player 3 podcast, Shy High. The Shy High.
I fell into the awkward habits being in your house again.
So we are doing this live and in person, and the reason for that is because we are doing a 24-hour live stream trying to raise some money for Able Gamers, which is a charity that outfits people with physical disabilities with controllers that allows them to that gives them accessibility to games. So we're trying to raise $5,000 for them over here. We're doing some giveaways, some shenanigans. We just got through playing two dudes, one controller with Overwatch. We did some Halo 1v1s with ridiculous settings. After this, I'm going to teach everybody how to cook a steak.
Yes.
All kinds of awesome stuff going on. But first of all, how are you guys doing?
I'm fantastic. Having a good day. I don't know how I'll feel in about 12 hours, but...
Yeah, that's the question.
Also, let me just... yes, you're 24-hour stream. I was sitting around... I've been the last couple nights like organizing everything for the show, getting all the overlays and stuff ready, and I'm just like... 24 hours, man. We're old. Like, I'm almost 30. Larry, you're almost 35.
I hate you.
Would anybody else like coffee? My
Yes,
wife
please.
is...
No, I'm good.
All right, my wife is
For now, at least.
taking coffee orders for us.
Viewers, would you
So,
like coffee?
Let me just... can you just set it down over there? So this episode is maybe a little strange, especially for podcast listeners, because we're going to be cutting loose a little bit more. You may hear a voice interject, calling from the wilderness. We may remember him, Benjamin D. Hankins.
Over here. I'm not his wife, by the way. I just dropped off coffee.
He just dropped off coffee, but maybe in another life. Oh, and the mailman just came. Very nice. So hopefully the 50-foot USB cable is in there, because we need that for me to show you guys how to cook steak. But you may hear Ben chime in, and then you may also hear alerts. We've got alerts set up for when people donate, when they follow the stream. We normally turn those off for the podcast, but we're just letting them roll because we want to thank people who, especially thank people who are giving money to what we think is a great cause. But this is PvA Radio. We get together each and every week. Each of us brings one of the biggest gaming news stories of the week to the table, and then we have an in-depth discussion about it. Consider it your collaborative audio feature article, if you will, or CAFA. And Larry, what do we want people to do with that?
You're going to want to get your neighbor. You're going to want to get a needle. You're going to want to tattoo that to their forehead.
Tattoo.
Tattoo.
You're going to want to tattoo that to your forehead. But if you, we normally do the show every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time over on twitch.tv/PvA Radio. Special time this week. Also, that's Cafidi doing it in the chat over here, dropping the CAFAs in. Yes. We want you to spam that emote. If you can't catch us live, you can find us on youtube.com/PvA Radio and podcast services everywhere, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. But wherever you're listening to us, we greatly appreciate you. Some housekeeping here at the top. Again, we are doing this 24-hour live stream, so we're going to be going live all the way through noon tomorrow, which is Saturday. Got a lot more shenanigans planned. And then I think that's really going to do it. If you want to donate, we're going to leave the donate link live for a little while after the stream. It's playerversusall.com/give. That'll direct you to the Tiltify page where you'll be able to give money. So, all right, guys, let's jump in, get this show started like we get every show started with, what have you been playing? And Cody, since you're the only one who's actually populated this region of the show notes, what have you been playing?
I guess I'm the only one who is playing shit.
Been playing?
Oh yeah, sorry. Ben has jingles.
This is
It's a mashup of
It
old
changes
school
everything.
Player 3 podcast nostalgia here.
that changes everything. I
It
guess I was the only
does.
one who was playing shit this week.
False. I put my show notes in the wrong show notes, which is fitting given my topic. We'll talk about
Yes.
that later.
So this week, I finally broke through the barrier that I run into with Sekiro, and so I've actually progressed quite a bit in that game. I think I put what is going on?
My dog just walked into the room and is like scratching her face, but doing it in the most "please look at me" way. What is this? Oh, the bag for the hats.
Bag for the hats. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Sekiro.
Yeah, I'm playing Sekiro, and then I'm dipping back into Red Dead Redemption 2 a little bit because I had started a new save a while back. So I'm playing through that as a black hat, just like completely fucking shit up and just shooting every single person on sight. You know,
Yeah, I saw that in
power
the
fantasy.
Yeah, I saw that in the show notes, and I was like, I thought you had finished that game
I
quite
did.
a while ago.
I just like existing in that game and existing in that world. So any chance to dive back in, I take. And then I've
Also, his main account is just still walking toward the next destination, so he needs something to do in the meantime.
Ben, what's the notification over here?
That's Sean Sakiti coming in with a nice little $1 donation. Thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate that.
thank you.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that is true. Just walking back and forth, taking literal hours to get from one point of the map to another. Slowest gameplay ever.
It's interesting because we had talked, I think, a few weeks ago about how I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and how going from Red Dead to that felt like just snorting a bunch of coke. And going the opposite way, I actually felt more comfortable. I don't know why. I think it was just slowing. There are not a lot of games that actually beg you to slow down the pace and like just kind of enjoy, or quote unquote enjoy walking from one place to another or riding from one place to another. That's kind of why I like that game, because the pace is a little bit slower. It's a little bit more ambient. The only other game I have on here is Overcooked, which I actually got my girlfriend into. So we've been playing that together and actually doing pretty well. Although this is a pet peeve of mine. We will get 2 stars on a level and she will not want to go back and get 3 stars. So there are so many 2-star levels on our current run through, but I love that game. We'll be playing a little bit later too, I think, or maybe not. I think we have it scheduled, right?
Yeah, I think we're gonna play
After
Overcooked.
Stakes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Larry, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing Apex, jumped back in, killed some dragons. Looks like the dragons are going to be an even bigger deal soon. Excited about that. But mostly I've been playing Fallout 76. It's back. It's good. It's healthy. It's fun to play. The Battle Royale mode, I'm having a blast with it. The gunplay is not as bad as PUBG, and it's probably not as bad as Fortnite. You may contest that. But
I think you've got a very old school understanding of Fortnite's polish.
okay, that may be fair. I need to jump back in so I can criticize it more relevantly.
And because it depends on the night with Fallout.
Yes.
There are good nights with Fallout, and then there are bad nights with Fallout. I got on last week at one point, and I was like, I felt like I was getting 12 frames per second. It looked like a slideshow when I was playing. It was very bad. Very, very bad.
But we've had some fun in it. It's been good. And the canvas bags finally went out. So the only thing left to be mad about is that nothing worked in the beginning.
And that it took them 10 months to get the bags out.
True. But yeah, those are really the two. I really want to jump in the division and finish that. Ben and Seth.
Ben, is your Xbox fixed? Do you know what's wrong with your
Yeah,
Xbox?
so my power cord is
And throw up your
isn't
camera.
I could do that. Yeah. So my
Yeah, you're good.
it's me fully. So my power cord's messed up, and I don't know. I think I just have to buy a new one. I tried to do the surge protector troubleshooting you're supposed to do, where you unplug part and unplug the other part, but it didn't work. So I just got to order a new one. Money's not good though. So yeah.
Those Xbox One power adapters are hella expensive.
Yeah, they really are.
It's about like buying a brand new Xbox. Basically, I should just trade my Xbox in and get an Xbox
Because
One X.
how much is it?
I don't know.
I think back when I worked at GameStop, back when I worked at
Like 50,
GameStop,
I'm thinking like $50-$60 probably.
back when I worked at GameStop, at least it was like $75 for for a new power cable. So, yeah. Well, hopefully you can get that fixed because that's really what's holding us back from jumping in to the division. Yeah. So I've been playing Fallout Battle Royale with you as well. Been playing more League, watching a bunch of nerdy like guide videos, trying to learn how to jungle. So yeah, that's been most of my gaming. I haven't been able to stream as much this week because I've been just getting ready for the 24-hour stream. So next week, getting back to the regular stream schedule, gonna be playing a lot more. I've been playing more Overwatch too. I'm just ready for the new season.
Overwatch 2 is out? I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
Later this year, it'll get announced. Milky513 says, I have two extra Xbox One power cables. Go to your local Microsoft store and they may just give you one for free. Milky513 thinks if we live anywhere close to a Microsoft store. We live in the middle of nowhere.
You could just send me one. You could just send me one of those extra ones. That'd be wonderful. I'd appreciate that.
Very true. Very, very true. All right, guys. Let's move into our topics. I think, Cody, you're kicking us off this week. So. Yes, you are. Cody, what is your topic?
I'm going to talk a little bit about Jedi Fallen Order, which we talked about, I think, relatively extensively when we were running through EA's E3 press conference. And I was quite hard on the gameplay we had seen. And I think you guys were both a little bit hotter on it than I was. Larry, I think, being the most enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And so they released the full, 25 minutes. I think they showed behind closed doors to press, or at least a good portion of that is what they showed. And it revealed a whole lot more about the game that they didn't even indicate while they were really talking about it on stage. Or I think they hinted at it, they just didn't dive into it specifically. Things like several Metroidvania elements, kind of a map that expands as you get new abilities, hopping from planet to planet, which they've talked about before, but they hadn't really shown off. And then kind of Dark Souls-y combat, which they dived a little bit more into. And so after watching it, and I think after a lot of people watched it, they were a little bit more jazzed about the game, or at least moderately their interest was piqued a little bit more. And so I want to talk about kind of this trailer specifically, but also largely about how this game has been marketed, because I think there are two different ideas I'm getting from how they've marketed it. One is the Uncharted-esque single-player adventure that I think a lot of people want from a Star Wars game, which is what the trailer they showed at E3 was largely. And then this kind of more open-ended exploratory game, which will also largely have narrative elements to it as well because it's single player. But I think those two, there's somewhere in the middle where this game meets. And I don't think they've really shown us what that is yet. So I kind of want to talk about that at length. Let's just talk about kind of how this game has been marketed, how you guys, I mean, Larry, you said you were excited just from what you had seen at E3.
Yeah.
So does this make you any more excited about it?
It doesn't change anything for me.
Okay.
Because I'm already I've known I was buying this game for a while now.
Yeah.
And for me, it's I love the narrative, the story approach of Star Wars games, and so that's all I need to know is I'm getting a new Star Wars story, and seeing what era this was in, that really got me excited. Seeing that I'm going to be dealing with the I'm blanking on the word. The Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Seeing that Saw Gerrera is going to be fighting alongside me, all that is super exciting. That's all that I need to know. I want this game.
Yeah. So you're more excited about it from a
world
perspective, narrative perspective.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the gameplay that's been shown?
I mean, it looks awesome to me. It looks. It reminds me of. I'm not shocked by it, just in terms of. It's the natural progression of Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy back in the day, and then The Force Unleashed. It looks like the same kind of thing, just upgraded, more modern. There's definitely a little bit of a Respawn flair to it. And I'm a huge fan of Respawn and their story games, and just the gameplay of Titanfall was a blast.
And the campaign.
Yeah.
Specifically, yeah.
Thanks for saying that. Specifically, that's what I was referring to, the way you went through the environment and stuff. That's obviously happening here. The freedom in combat is what most excites me about the gameplay. and I haven't watched the new stuff yet. Full disclosure, this has been I'm coming off the busiest week of my year, but what we already knew of, like, these weren't like trigger events, but you're making the decision on, I'm freezing time on this thing, I'm grabbing this guy, I'm pulling him into this thing. Like, I love the choices that you have in combat, and it allows for a variety of. It allows for replayability, and it allows for individuals to have a variety of styles that they like to go through the game with, and I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I did get a chance to scrub through the 25-minute video. I wasn't about to sit down and just watch 25 minutes worth of gameplay, but while I think it's cool that you have all these different abilities, and I don't know if this has more to do with how the combat is going to work, or more if it has to do more with who was playing the game that made the video. But the gameplay does not look fluid at all. It looked very, very. But they also didn't do a great job of selecting fights that were very interesting. There were like 3 or 4 fights where you just fought a giant spider, and it was like, this doesn't seem very representative of what this game is supposed to be about. And but even like when they were fighting through stormtroopers and stuff like that, there was a weight to the combat that just didn't seem very Jedi-esque to me, right? Like, I think when people compliment God of War, they compliment God of War because you're this powerful dude who's carrying around this giant-ass axe, and like you feel like you have weight to the combat. Whereas I think with Star Wars, like when I think about a Jedi, I think about somebody who's nimble and quick and floaty, and that's not how the combat came across to me in that gameplay. And so, but again, that may have just been because they had somebody who wasn't very good at the game who was playing it, and who was taking a lot of time to like make decisions. Maybe you can start to string those abilities together as you learn them, but that goes back to your original like high arching topic within this is, why would they not look at that gameplay and say, this isn't super representative of what it is, and decide to go a different route with it?
Yeah, that's the thing I'm most interested with this game, because it seems to me, and this is granted, there are tons of people like you, Larry, who are like super jazzed about it, and should be, because it's a single player Star Wars game that seems like it has a lot of polish put into it. But I think for me and other people, just based on reactions I've seen on social media, I think there's a concern about how this game has been marketed and messaged just in the 2 reveals we've seen. Mm-hmm. And so as part of that, I want to talk about why they chose not to show this aspect of the game at E3. And we kind of talked about the limitations of an on-stage demo a lot while we were talking about E3. They already showed 15 minutes of this game on stage at the EA Play event, and that was in an event that largely didn't have that much to show. Mm-hmm. So I do sort of question the decision not to just kind of show the extended 10 minutes of this that would have included knowledge about how to hop from planet to planet, knowledge about the Metroidvania aspects, which I think a lot of people are excited about. And even I just wanted to pull this quote from a statement from Stig Asmussen, the game director. And this is largely what we were talking about before. It was critical to present a focused 15 minutes of raw in-game footage highlighting lightsaber gameplay that speaks to the Jedi fantasy in an empowering way. And based on your comments, it doesn't sound like that got across to even what they were trying to get across.
Yeah, it didn't capture it for me, at least. Milky513 in the chat, continuing on with the gameplay, says, the actual gameplay was like a watered-down Star Killer and God of War mashed together. Way more platformer elements than I expected, but it was developed by the same. It's being directed by the same guy who directed God of War 2 and 3. So, I think part of the reason that I don't think we got to see the 25-minute that they didn't do that is the way that EA Play was set up was so strange. First of all, but we've beat that horse into the ground. But they knew that the way they had it set up was, we're telling you exactly when we're talking about the game that you care about, and so they knew that they had the audience that cared about Star Wars watching them, and so don't give some long sweeping gameplay breakdown that they can nitpick through and have that be the conversation around your game. I don't know. I'm curious of how. Go ahead.
You think Star Wars fans would like nitpick something?
I just think
Never.
like it makes me question how confident they are in that gameplay that they've shown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think Star Wars fans still like, if the point was to show lightsaber combat in action and show what it feels like to play as a Jedi, I do think the demo got that across to a certain extent, but it doesn't give me this is the first time we saw the game in action, and I don't think it gave me a concrete idea of what the game was outside of those combat sections, especially because it's ostensibly a narrative experience. We got a few cutscenes with Saw. I keep on calling him Saul, but it's Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
Is it spelled S-A-W? Okay.
Yes.
Saw. Got it.
But I think the 25-minute extended showed more of the narrative flair of the game. Like I think there were a couple points where you talked to your crew members, you explored the ship a little bit, which is really cool to me. I love that stuff in Mass Effect, and I think this has a little bit of that in it. So I just sort of I think the Star Wars audience is already a captive audience for them with this product, and so I do sort of question the decision not to show this.
Mm-hmm. Larry's gears are turning.
I know.
Feel like he's about to.
I feel like I can't have like a great opinion on it until I go and I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Like that's part of the problem. But then the other side of it is I'm just soaking in your thoughts on the combat and stuff. Like from where the combat just excited me. I can't wait. But I do. So I see what so Milky's comment that it's like weakened Starkiller and God of War. That makes sense to me. But I like that. My issue with the Force Unleashed was that it was too far in the other direction. I thought Starkiller was way too overpowered, like right out of the gates.
He's pulling down Star Destroyers.
Yeah. So I felt like that one didn't have enough of a struggle. But I also see what you're saying of he's a very heavy-handed fighter. It's not graceful. Mm-hmm. And that may be more in line with this era of Star Wars, but it's not in line with what we've come to expect from Jedi fighters. So I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah. And who knows, that could change as you level up and get more skill points, because that's also a massive part of the game. I think we're still just speculating about this game because I just think there's been a problem with the messaging, and it concerns me if this is the last big hurrah for their partnership with Star Wars. That's concerning to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we even just scoped out and looked at EA as a whole, outside of Apex, what's the last game that they really did marketing well for?
I know.
You know, like, and I'm not talking about how Anthem came out and fell flat, but like they didn't even do a great job in the run up to Anthem. They let off the gas like 9 months before when they were showing so much stuff. The E3 before Anthem came out, and so I think it's just they're being a little bit gun shy about their marketing because they haven't figured out how to do it well in the. Anytime recently.
The only time it worked was when they had shown nothing.
Right, when it was Apex, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, we got this little game that's releasing today." Ben, you look like you got something to say.
That's what I was going to say. You said the only time it worked was with Apex, but they did nothing leading up to Apex. And it was like
a leak.
everything after Apex. It was cool, but yeah.
And then even with Apex, right? The messaging for that has been not great since it launched. I don't know. They let go of a lot of people in their marketing department recently, and I think that it's understandable why, because nothing that they've released has been marketed all that well.
Yeah.
Looking at it just objectively and not as what Larry wants, I do think that this game it looks to me like this game will be an enjoyable experience for Star Wars fans, but it's not going to be an entry point that pulls people in that aren't already interested in Star Wars. Like I'm not getting that from the gameplay yet. So
yeah, you being like it makes sense in this era or whatever, that does nothing for me.
Yeah.
You know, to hardcore Star Wars fans, they may be like, oh yeah, definitely in the middle of these two eras, like that's how it would have been done. I'm like, look, I just want to flip around and I want a Star Wars Episode 1, this thing.
Yeah, or you have to get me in on an interesting narrative hook. I was not plugged into in any way the God of War mythos or world, but when I saw that demo shown off, I recognized touchstones for things that I enjoy, which is it was focused on relationships. The combat looked like beefy and mean. And so those were things I could tether myself to, even if I wasn't into the world of God of War. And if they had, I think there was a way to show this game that maybe appealed to people outside of the Star Wars fandom. But granted, the Star Wars fandom is massive.
Yeah.
So I think you have to maybe please those people.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. When they first announced this game, and like by announced I mean they released a short trailer, and then they released like a press release about what the story was, right?
Yeah.
About the whole like he's a Jedi who has to keep his powers secret. And it's like, I'm with you. Like, show that to me in a trailer.
Yeah.
So that I can, get interested in it.
At the beginning of the trailer, they did that well. And I would like to see more of that, because that is really fascinating to me. Like, moving through the world, and like, you've got this great power, you could do something big, but it's also super risky, and maybe you shouldn't. And I think that's a story that a lot of people will connect to. This whole like, do I stand up to the forces in power, or do I not? Do I take that risk? But looking at what they showed us at E3,
Play.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Looking at what they showed us there, it looks like that part of the story like ends pretty early on, and we're just jumping straight to full on we're a warrior now. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's not the case, but it does look like that is going to be the case. Jason
Swain says, from what we saw combat-wise of the new Star Wars game, was that the animation of the enemies were pretty bad. The background areas, however, look good. As a Star Wars fan myself, the game itself just falls flat, and it is the best EA has given to Star Wars. Yeah, I thought the movement of pretty much everybody, not just the enemies, was at least a little wooden, kind of stiff. So, and stuff like that can be fixed.
They still have months.
They still have months of polish to go with it. But yeah, I think if you're going to show extended gameplay, it should be as polished as you can get it.
Yeah. And I mean, I do want to end this just by saying, like, we're talking about a game that is still months away from release, and there's still work to be done on it. So I think maybe once we see all these pieces working in concert, it could really hit some of us. But I think the conversation to be had here is not maybe about the merits of the game, but about how they've pitched those to us, which I think is more concerning on EA's part, considering after this, if they don't end up making any Star Wars games, what do they have in the pipeline to market to us and to sell it to us as consumers? And if they can do a better job of that.
Yeah.
And it won't have the brand recognition of Star Wars to just pull people in as well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's sad to look back on what EA's done with this license.
Yeah.
Two Battlefront games, one that was just buried in controversy, which, to my understanding, has a very dedicated fan base that still very much loves that game to this day. They had new content even for that to announce at EA Play. But you can't – it's the problem that with Mass Effect Andromeda. It's the problem they had with Battlefront. It's the problem they're having with Anthem. Like, you can't expect to screw up the launch of these things and have people come back to the fold. Like, Apex Legends was the best chance that they had, and yet there's still conversations around that about diminishing player bases, and I think a lot of that's overblown because people just expect Fortnite levels of success. But at the end of the day, like, EA hasn't nailed how to talk about their games in quite some time. Even their sports franchises that make money hand over fist, like they don't know how to talk about them. Let's see. What do we got over there, Ben?
Milky says that he asked the devs about the enemy AI, and they hummed and hawed over that it wasn't actually a final project, that it was the alpha version, and that everybody was looking at. And then he said the enemy AI might have been watered down to make the gameplay look more exciting, but if it wasn't, then they have quite a bit of work to do.
It wasn't exciting, though. Like, I felt like there was a scene where where Saul, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Saw, yeah.
Jumps down into a group of 5 stormtroopers, and like the stormtroopers have no clue what to do around him. Like they weren't.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about the player character.
Yeah. Sorry, what's his name?
Oh,
Cal.
Is it Cal? Yeah.
Cal. That's right. Yeah, he jumps down into the stormtroopers, and like they don't even really react to him. It seemed like there wasn't much AI to begin with. So Yeah, I mean, look, I fully expect a game at E3 that's releasing, months from now to be in an alpha state. But if you're gonna show off an extended gameplay, you just need to make sure it's in a spot to be criticized, which is why I feel confident to speak to what I saw there, with the caveat of understanding, knowing that they're probably listening to feedback and they're going to make tweaks. But at the end of the day, that is 95% of what we're likely to see when the game comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it'll be a whole different thing once we actually get our hands on it.
Mm-hmm. So, what other games does EA have in the pipeline right now that's not a sports game?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't recall seeing any Eddie.
There's
Respawn's taken up. We know everything they're working on ostensibly.
Yeah, they're
unless they have. I guess they have another Titanfall project in the works.
But my understanding is that's been delayed.
Yeah,
basically
quite heavily.
Indefinitely.
Yeah. They delayed it indefinitely, or put it on the back burner, however you want to put it. But I guess there's a new Dragon Age that's in the works.
Yeah.
That's still far off, but like everything else that they talked about were games that we had. For God's sake, they talked about The Sims 4. They had a whole segment on The Sims 4. Like, there's just not a lot in the pipeline for EA. It feels strange because you always you assume EA's got like 3 or 4 big games that are about to come out, and that's just not where we are right now. There's not even like a new Battlefield that's been announced.
We will probably see that on next gen.
Yeah.
Granted, but yeah, not looking good.
All right. Larry.
All right. So I'd like to shake my fist at the clouds with some other old people. So this past week, you probably saw that there was a Wall Street Journal column where a fellow cranky old man talked about how the Fortnite the kids are playing can't compare to the Fortnites that he had with his friends back when they were children. Which quickly became a meme, and the guy got made fun of quite a bit.
Did you read the article?
Yeah.
The Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I read the Wall Street Journal article.
I was like, is this all it takes to get published in the Wall Street Journal? Like, you know how you read something and you're like, this person clearly just went to thesaurus.com and tried to find big words for words that he wanted to use? That's how that whole article read.
That's what the Wall Street Journal is. At least
I guess I don't.
Their op-ed stuff.
I guess I don't read very much of the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I don't really either.
But the dude was like a doctor in North Carolina or something like that wrote it. Lawyer in North Carolina.
Yeah. So it became a meme, and maybe
very
I don't
quickly
understand, but the cranky old man language he used, definitely meme worthy. But I feel like the guy had some good points.
We got to quote
this.
What's the quote that got the most attention?
Hold on.
It said, Fortnite doesn't hold a candle to the games of Fortnite that I played as a kid.
Yes. Fortnite spelled Fortnight.
Which was nights that his friends came over and they built forts together. So before we get into the other stuff, do you feel the language was the problem, or do you feel like altogether he's just a cranky old man and he's out of touch? Or is it the children that are wrong?
as a hint of foreshadowing.
Tipping his hand a little bit.
I don't know. I read the article and was more hung up on how poorly written it was. In my opinion, at least. But I don't know. Like, he didn't say anything no one said before of just like, gone are the days we can hop on our bikes and ride down to the store to get down to the 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee. Like, I don't know. He didn't say anything that had never been said before. I don't think he's necessarily wrong, but it doesn't mean he's right either.
Yeah, I think that people were getting hung up on that one. I mean, I think they were getting hung up on the sentiment of the whole thing because it's attacking something that they love. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the entire sentiment is wrong, but I think the way he went about it was quite wrong. I mean, I think the two worlds he's describing, I don't think are completely at odds with each other, and I think exist a lot more than he thinks they do, coexist a lot more than he thinks they do, and I think he even actually recognizes that Fortnite looks fun. People left that part out of the quote often, I noticed, which is interesting. But I just think, I don't know if his point is as a whole is kind of proven, because I think those two things can coexist, and they do.
Nuclear Dab says, why not both? Play Fortnite in your forts at night.
Exactly.
Which we may be doing something similar to that tonight. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to the witching hour.
Staying up until dawn doesn't hold a candle. Wait, I messed it up. Messed the joke up.
Did you guys have any equivalent ideas, like riffs on his headline that you wanted to
There were a lot
throw
of
out here? Any that you found? Jason Schreier's, I think, is the one that really kicked it off, where he said, these kids today will play Anthem, but they won't stand for the anthem. And mine was, Doom Eternal doesn't hold a candle to the eternal doom my dad promised me if I touched the thermostat.
Yeah, I didn't think of any. I'm not very creative.
It's all right, man.
There was one for The Last of Us that I saw going around that was pretty good. I can't remember that verbatim, though. There were a lot of people were memeing on this hard real fast.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like people were more after the language, or do you feel like a lot of people are like, going outside is not...
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think it was that at all.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
People tend to think that we live in this really antisocial society today, but we really don't. Like, there's I think that people our age enjoy getting together, and which we're not young anymore.
No.
Damn it.
We're not Fortnite crowd.
I'm not really. I guess I'm no expert to speak to the culture of the youth, like Ben and Larry are here.
Yeah.
But
don't worry, well get you Gucci here in a minute as the youth.
I'm the youngest person here.
But I also thought
it will be lit.
I also thought I thought that he failed to recognize the social aspects of
Yeah.
playing Fortnite too, which I think is an important thing. Like, gaming is such a social time for me to play with my friends and
For a lot
talk
of
with
people.
them. Like, and even for like my 9-year-old nephew has a crew of people he plays Fortnite with. You know, like there's a social aspect to it that I thought that he failed to recognize, and I think it's just because he's probably ignorant of it.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of kids who are highly introverted that don't deal well in social situations, and they can deal better on, like, in an Xbox party chat, for instance, than they can face to face. And I'm not saying that should be a total substitute for those interactions, but I think it does help people to acclimate socially when they can do it over something they love.
Also, why ride your bike to the 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee when you can just DoorDash it? You know?
That's true.
Just Uber Eats it. Get them to bring it to you, man.
It's a $5 slushie, but be prepared to pay $20 for it if you DoorDash to you.
Gosh, we ordered Chinese food the other night. We bought like $27 worth of food, and it was like $40 after it was all said and done. It was ridiculous.
So I get all that, and you know, I've defended these things on the stream before. Just the benefits that gaming can have, community-wise, learning how to work as a team and all that. But I do worry that the youths are the children are getting to the point where it is full on replacing, and not just gaming, but social media, all that stuff. It's I don't know about you guys, but around where I'm at, it's pretty rare to see children outside. There's actually a dividing line, and it is the line where you can get good internet. If you go to the playgrounds on the side of the line where you can't get good internet, playground's populated. If you go to the side that has good internet, there are no children there. And that's just really interesting to me. And I don't know. Like, I'm not an advocate of don't let the kids game, but I also think that a lot of parents would do well to put a little more limitation on it than they have. So I don't know. I liked the sentiment of the guy's article, but it was very much he was sitting on his porch just yelling at the children.
Yeah. And that's also not to say, just to play devil's advocate for a second, that's not to say that the social activity that happens via the internet and via games is not incredibly antisocial.
Fair enough.
But I think, I don't know, by me and understand, I guess I live in Alexandria, so it's a city. There's stuff going on. I see kids out all the time, but that's also largely because there's stuff to do and things to do, especially now that summer's in full gear and school's not in session. And I can tell, like, that a lot of those kids are the same crowd that are likely playing Fortnite. My brother is obsessed with Fortnite.
How old's your brother?
My brother, he's not the 14, 15 range.
He's like 37, 38.
57. He's 21.
Okay.
So I mean, he's
basically a kid.
He's kind of like the higher range of that of that crowd.
Yeah.
And he's an incredibly active kid. I think it's the game. Also, the game just reaches so many different groups of people. Like, it's huge with athletes. It's huge with kids in the computer club. It's huge with everybody. So to
Did
just
you say
kinda,
in the computer club?
yeah, there's it's
is a
I guess coding club it's called now.
Oh, I don't know what any of this is. I'm the old man of this conversation.
Coding is a part of education now.
That's right. I've heard it's the new literacy.
Yes, that's what I've been. Digital literacy.
Yes. Yes, Ben.
I think most of it's just moderation. I mean, I agree with both sides. Like, I think because I think that there's part of it that it can be way overdone for kids to just be on the games all the time. But it also, like, the kid that was always the nerd for playing D&D in his basement can now be like the cool nerd because he is awesome at Fortnite. Like that. Yeah. That's a cool thing, I think. But I think it can be overdone. Yeah.
Well, also catch us up on the chat here. What's the chat saying to us here?
So let me get back where we are. So Milky says, I hate to sound like an old man who stayed up too long in his coffin. But is the original part of Fortnite still being used or developed?
I thought that comment was going a different direction, but okay.
The part that is not a battle royale. So like
Save the World is not active anymore. I don't think. It's why the disc is so expensive. Like, if you want to go try to buy the disc for Fortnite Save the World, it's like hella expensive. So.
And then Royd Speedrun says, when I was a kid, I had an Xbox, but no live. If I wanted to play with people, they had to come over, which is an interesting concept that we lose a lot of now because of no couch co-op and things.
Which is coming back.
It is coming back with resurgence. And then he says, when I was like 17 or 18, I built my first computer, and that was really my first time experiencing online gaming in any fashion.
Yeah. Well, also here, we failed to mention, he can fix you a nice, delicious glass of Pepsi and steal your daughter's heart. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Doug Martin. He's off screen. But, most of Seth and I's hanging out in high school was him coming over and us playing Halo on my Xbox. But I want to go back to Larry's point, because I think Larry's point was an interesting one. Because the main thing you're seeing with your kids is not an addiction to gaming. It's an addiction to the technology that they think is making them connected with, and I don't know, man. This whole conversation just makes me feel old. But this whole idea of I'm texting my friends, or I'm Snapchatting my friends, or I'm TikToking my friends. So we're clearly close. We're clearly connecting. That it's not so much that kids are staying inside because they just want to play Fortnite all the time. It's because they're staying inside because, hey, they think that this group text message that I'm having is hanging out, is real interaction.
And I've tried to, me, I try not to jump on the doomsday train with things. and
but
with
this generation is
with
doomed.
Smartphone technology and all that, it's from the get-go. There's been all these critiques and stuff. But as time goes on, it doesn't seem to be mellowing out. It just seems to be confirming issues that we knew were there. There is a correlation, even if there's not causation. We can't definitively say it's causative yet, but the advent of the smartphone being in every home, it correlates with skyrocketing feelings of loneliness, disconnectedness, depression, and I really do think that's part of it. Kids, Gen Z, they're less capable of maintaining eye contact with people they're talking to. They struggle to recognize facial expressions on the same level that older generations can, and I think that those things are very much connected. And so, with kids, yes, laugh at the old man shaking his fist on the porch. The way he worded it, he earned it. He deserves it. But I would also say that if most of your interaction with people is online interaction, I just don't think it can give you the same depth of relationship and the same satisfaction that being with people physically can. Even during this podcast, we've talked about the struggles of interacting over webcam versus sitting in the same room together. It makes a difference. So Fortnite's not evil. It's not destroying your generation, but don't let digital interaction be your only interaction.
The other thing is so we've been going back and watching back through Parks and Rec, and I love that show.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about that show is that each of the characters is a caricature of certain traits. But what I've noticed with a lot of people is that they tend to identify with these caricatures and fail to recognize that they are caricatures. So like the people who will share Ron Swanson quotes about libertarianism or whatever without realizing that it's satire on it. Same thing with April Ludgate's character, right? This like completely disconnected, doesn't care about anything kind of person. And so many people want to be like April Ludgate without realizing that she was satire about that kind of a person who doesn't care about anything, yada yada. And the real commentary on it was there are things that she cares about, and her character is more interesting when she shows the things that she cares about. Like, but to your point of like kids are showing that, you know, more awkward in social interactions, more feelings of isolation and loneliness. And I think while I agree that I think technology somewhat plays a role in that, I think there's also just like people, I think kids choose to be those things. Like, like people, how many people have you heard be like, I'm just so awkward, you know? Like, and like they think of awkward as a characteristic, as a personality trait of theirs that they've adopted within themselves. And so while I agree that technology plays a role in it, I think that it's also just people for some reason think that makes them interesting when in reality it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, to take Ben's point, and we've talked about this extensively, I think it always does come down to moderation. I think having a healthy social life in person is just as important as having a healthy digital presence, because it is like there's no way, I think there's not no way, but it is difficult to exist in the world, in our world, without somewhat of a digital presence. So many of my relationships are facilitated and have actually blossomed through online interaction.
Name two.
Luke. What's that other one?
His name was Connor. He wrote that.
Yes.
He wrote that article about how much he loved the Wii U gamepad.
Calling him out by name.
About that.
I mean, he wrote the article and posted it online.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to call him out.
I think there's a way to look at what you're talking about, Larry, and view it as kind of the downfall of society or whatever. I think there's also a way to look at it, and this is the way I prefer to look at it, as an evolution of the way we interact. I do think that comes with repercussions, and I also think a large part of the contributing factor to those repercussions are the fact that the world just fucking sucks right now, and I think people feel disconnected for a variety of reasons, not just attached to technology. I do think technology facilitates it because you can see more intensely the divisions, and it does facilitate those divisions. And so I think you can feel disconnected that way. But I think it's hard to exist in the world and not, especially in 2019, and not just feel disconnected and like you're lost in some way.
Look, at the end of the day, the world's atmosphere is going to burn away in 10 years. The polar ice caps are going to melt, and we're going to be getting slaughtered by starving polar bears. And so what does it matter what we're pouring into our youths? Beachfront property, baby, right here in the foothills of Virginia. So what does it matter what the youths are going to do? Because in 10 years, we're all going to be dead anyway, right? Right, Ben?
Election 2020.
Right. Vote for me.
Vote for me if you want to abolish the sun.
Exactly.
Which is really the culprit in all of this.
Yes.
Right?
You know?
There's no
Damn,
sun.
that's why you're
no...
shaking your hands in the cloud.
Oh, damn you, son. All right. Any final words on this topic?
I just want to, if I could end on one quote, it's this.
Please.
That the Fortnite the kids are playing can't hold a candle to the Fortnites I had in my youth.
All right.
I'm not gonna leave it there. You know the funniest thing about that comment though,
What?
is that most of the interactions I remember are like staying up late playing Halo with friends, and like LAN parties at night, or like I remember when I was in high school, me and a couple of my friends bought Rock Band, and we stayed up all night and played Rock Band, and it was like. That was like the most fun I can remember having as a kid, and it revolved around technology. So it's all about how you use it. Like it's all about where it's being used and how it's being used.
I think that's true. I also think just like there are legitimate cases where people will see an 8-year-old going to the store by themselves and they're going to call the police.
Yeah.
And I think so. This guy, I think he does make a mistake of putting the onus on the children. I think the problem is their parents. Really, parents parents. This wave of parents is just super fearful. It's the safest time in the history of the. If you have a child in America, it is the safest point in human history that you could possibly have a child. But we're all so terrified that we hold kids back from
Unless you're a
what
migrant.
could be really cool experiences. Yeah, that's true. That does vary depending on. Yeah,
Which, if the sun doesn't get us, the anti-vaxxers are going to get us.
for sure.
Also, can I just speak honestly about this quote? I literally did not know what a Fortnite was when he mentioned it.
I
I've
didn't
never
either.
had a Fortnite in my life.
I never called it Fortnite. We built forts,
Yeah.
but we never were like, "Hey, bro, you want to come over and have a Fortnite?"
He kind of just proves his age with that comment. I don't know.
But I do think like parents are potentially robbing their kids of really cool experiences by how afraid they are.
What's the youngest kid? What's the youngest a kid could be that you wouldn't call the cops if you just saw him walking down the street by himself?
Well, I think that's a problem too. Are they by
Yeah.
themselves? The cases I've thought about or that I'm referencing, it's groups of kids.
Oh, okay.
Packs.
And if they're
They
in
call them.
groups, I don't know, man. Like I'd be like, oh,
Three.
that's kind of odd. Like 5, 6, I'd be all right with it.
I have no idea what like development stage you're at what age. I'm like 12 years old.
Maybe like 12
13.
miles away.
I would-
Not so much.
I'm probably the older
Maybe
person.
7 or 8.
Because I would
That'd be
struggle.
fun.
I would struggle with a 6-year-old walking down the street by themselves. I'd be like, "Where's his mom? This is crazy."
What about a group of 6-year-olds who have clearly just broken out of daycare?
I would be less scared.
Let me
of-
escalate. I'd say 7 to 8 year olds. 7 to 8 year olds. That's where I'd put it.
78-year-olds.
7 to 8.
Oh, here we go, baby. Hold on. Give it.
Why don't we take this back to that conversation we had of yore when Larry, how many 6-year-olds do you think you could beat up at any
Completely
given
different
time?
discussion. And if anything, you're only lending credence to my argument because you're way more confident in 6-year-olds than I am.
True. This is a good point.
Made for the streets.
Yeah, this is a good point. So the question back in the day was, what is the highest number of 6-year-olds you believe you could fight at one given time? Right.
It was 4th graders back then.
4th graders. That's right.
That's different.
So hold on, let's catch up with the chat here real quick. Mad
Let's
Brock
see.
says, "Well, Fortnite is 2 weeks," which is true.
We spent 2 weeks. I've
That
never
is true.
spent 2 weeks with friends.
No.
No, it's
He's
another
saying
word for
he's
2
saying
weeks.
a fortnight is
Okay. Yeah.
2 weeks, 14
Yeah.
days.
That'd have been awesome if I was growing up and being able to spend 2 weeks just at my friend's house. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Way off.
Then less is more says, rather than call, just become.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that
I mean,
means either.
That's,
I think he's telling me to send my children to the store and not worry about what other people's children are doing.
No, I think he's saying don't call the cops, just become one of them.
yes.
6th graders.
Join the pack.
But back to the point that I believe that that Seth was trying to make. You get a whole pack of 4th graders together, and it's like one mugger comes by. There's a minimum number where we're pretty confident that the 4th graders would be able to take down the mugger, right?
Right.
Like 5.
Like 5 or 6.
I think 5 is the sweet spot.
So if we take the age of the group and reduce it, so how old is a 4th grader? 9 and 10. So let's reduce that to 6. How many 6-year-olds do you think you could take at one time fighting?
I
before they
believe
could
my
take you
answer was 50.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ, I forgot. Yours was totally
I
unrealistic.
think 5 is the limit because you got 1 per limb.
When
Okay.
Ben is being the reasonable one in an argument,
So I think
Five?
you got. I think 5 is the limit because you get. I'm gonna put myself here so you can see me and see. Wait, I
You're
just
good,
messed
you're up
something Okay, 5's the limit because you got 1 per limb, and then 1 just to profusely kick you in a place that I can't mention because of TOS.
penis.
Yes.
Roy Speedrun says we gotta test this out. Anyone in chat willing to let us borrow your 4th grader?
Are you tougher than a 4th grader? Anyway, we've strayed far from the point here.
One last addendum though. Like I do think that this varies depending on like where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think for the places that I've lived, the average parent is far more fearful than they probably ought to be.
Yeah. Also, guys, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to remind people I I do want to remind people we are trying to raise some money for Able Gamers. We're trying to raise $5,000, and we have made an executive decision among the chat, among the group of us here, that we are going to change to every $100 we will be doing a giveaway because we have that much shit in this house to give away. So for every $100 we're gonna do a giveaway. So if you're here, type in !pick me, and at the end of the show we'll do our first giveaway. !charity, we'll give you the link, playerversusall.com/give, and you can donate to the cause. If we raise $5,000, I will be giving away a limited edition Big Boss Pack PSP, still in packaging, that is like super rare, super limited edition. So, all right, let's move on to my topic.
Sorry. Les Moore says his soon-to-be fourth grader is a wuss.
Jesus.
And see, I feel like that's standard fourth grade. That's why I think I could take 50.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll allow it. All right, it's my topic. I want to talk about subscription services. So, I feel like subscription services were probably the winner of E3, or at least showed it was the battle royale of 2019. We thought in 2018 we were going to see battle royales left and right. In 2019 we saw subscription services being talked about left and right. I want to talk about this future. Bless you, my friend. I want to talk about the future that we're seeing in gaming being subscription based. So we've got tons of different subscription services here, and fill in the blanks if I miss any. We've got Google Stadia, we've got Xbox Game Pass, we've got Apple Arcade, which is the mobile version, we've got Uplay Plus, we've got Origin and EA Access. Are there any others I'm missing here? I think I've got them all. I'm sure there's others I'm not thinking of, but wow, I think a lot of what's up?
Les Moore says, I'm with Larry. Have you seen him take his shirt off?
He takes it off so fast, guys. So fast. Also, let me ask my wife real quick. Have you checked the mail? Okay. I think the mail ran on. Yeah, can you go down and check? I'm waiting on a 50-foot USB cable so that I can teach the people how to cook steak. Anyway, so subscription-based services are clearly the future of gaming. And I want to, first of all, get you guys' just kind of personal opinions on this direction that we're going. Are you personally excited about subscription services? Are you subscribed to any of them? Do you plan on subscribing to any of them? Kind of, where are you at as far as subscription-based services go?
Yeah, so I think as far as what I'm subscribed to, I believe I'm only subscribed to Game Pass. But I am subscribed to Netflix, Hulu, Spotify. So the way that it has kind of spread to, I think the way it exists in other industries kind of impacts our decisions in this as well, just based on how much money we can spend. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I think it's a good thing, I don't think matters because it's going to happen. But I think it's all right to be wary. I'm already wary of it in television and movies, more so television, just because you can see it already becoming very siloed.
Yeah.
And I think that's people's greatest fear. Oh, remember GameFly, as Billy says.
The original, the OG gaming subscription service.
I just think the dangers of entertainment becoming siloed, which was what we already saw with cable, and what streaming was a remedy to until it became massively accepted and spread everywhere, is what happened. And I think we'll talk about kind of where we see streaming going and what the future of entertainment, especially games, could be. But I think we could see something similar happen.
Roy Speedrun says, I had 3 sub-services after E3 ended. Game Pass, Humble Bundle Monthly, which
it's not really,
isn't necessarily a streaming service as much as it is just like a subscription service where you get a certain amount of games every month and Origin Access. So, all right, Larry, where are you at with subscription services personally?
So, I keep arguing back and forth on it just because, A, cool concept. I like it. But B, I think it's going to even more rapidly than movie streaming services did. I think it's going to even more rapidly silo itself off, and I think that's going to be a problem for most people. And for me, I don't play a wide enough variety of games to like pay for a bunch of services. But by the same token, the reason I don't play all these games is I don't have a lot of money to buy a bunch of new games, and so a streaming service may actually open up a whole lot more for me to have access to, and so that's really cool. But I just don't think that as we see more and more populating the table here, I just don't see all of them being able to survive.
Yeah. So personally, I'm subscribed to Game Pass and to I do the Humble Bundle monthly as well, and then
You have Origins?
I have EA Access.
Oh, just EA Access.
Yeah,
okay.
I tried Origin Access, but EA Access is just like $30 a year, and you get access to the vault. So for me, it was just like for just the like 10-hour early access that you get on a bunch of games, it's totally worth it, you know. So yeah, I'm subscribed to some. I don't take advantage of them because Roy Speedrun said I'm just addicted to the idea of having an endless library to choose from. That's where I am too, but then I just play the same 2 games all the time. Yeah. I'm like, man, look at all these games I've got, and then I'm like, all right, time to put hour 1700 into Overwatch.
Well, it's the same thing like with people who have Netflix who literally just watch The Office.
Yeah, for now.
Well, until next year.
Called you out, Ben.
Okay, I'm gonna.
You didn't switch yourself.
So, did you mention Disney Plus? This is not an EA thing, I guess.
We were just talking game.
Oh, that's a stream. If you're talking about streaming services in general, that's a streaming service that I will throw all of my money at. Because
a lot of people will.
I'm gonna throw every amount of monies that I have at them, whatever they want to charge me. Because it's like all the Star Wars movies. I know this is way off topic. So all the Star Wars movies.
But I'm gonna push my button and do it anyway.
I think it's awesome. I've enjoyed EA Access with your.
That's right. Ben and I game share.
And so I like it. I don't know that I would pay for it on my own is the only thing. And same thing with like Game Pass. I'm kind of in Larry's boat. Like I only play a certain number of games at a time because I don't have a ton of money to throw at games all the time. But that might open the door for me with streaming services. So
yeah, I think your point, Larry, is an interesting one about the speed at which we are going to reach like a critical volume of these services in the gaming space, because game makers have a unique relationship with their consumers, right? Yeah. Because the makers of the games and the publishers of the games has really like probably the most direct line to consumers of anybody. Whereas filmmakers and stuff, they're having to go through Netflix, Hulu, theaters, whatever, and the ones that are more direct to consumer are more of like the meme-worthy ones, right? So like direct to DVD, television, straight to television movies, things like that. Whereas with games, it's like, well, you have your console makers who already have their set-top box in your living room, and so it's more advantageous to them from a dollars and cents perspective for them to do it and to push it. That's why, and so many people recognize the publishers, right? Like, Ubisoft makes this, and this, and EA makes this, and this. Whereas I don't think there's that much recognition of like who makes what movies and who
other
makes
than
what.
Disney.
Yeah, other than Disney. Maybe with television shows, like that's an NBC show,
Yeah.
that's an ABC show, but
Easier to find the channel.
yeah, yeah, that's true. But yeah, and then in video games, there's a weird sense of brand loyalty that I don't think really reflects itself in other media as well. I may be wrong there.
No, that's totally true. It's actually sort of disconcerting to me that people have that much loyalty to corporations that really have no interest in them whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it is true. I think gaming is unique in that way, and I think like people have enough brand loyalty for Ubisoft to just sign up, kind of no questions asked, to a Ubisoft streaming service. I'm sure if I'm trying to think of someone who doesn't have something right now. Bethesda. Does Bethesda have? Did they mention anything about that?
No, they're probably going to promise they won't have something like this year and then next year.
But I'm sure people would sign up for that too, just to get a backlog of Bethesda games.
Also, look at me talking shit about Bethesda, even though they tweeted about us today. I have no loyalty.
We can be critical of them.
I see them just like hitching their cart to someone else's horse. Like,
Probably. I mean, they're already all in on Epic.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought for sure that like they were going to do Game Pass or like that they were going to get on that train.
They are. I mean, some of their games are on Game Pass. Wolfenstein. Both Wolfensteins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the unique relationship and unique kind of distribution chain that games have makes this, I think, a lot more interesting than other industries. Where, especially with Netflix, like for a lot of people, that's an avenue through which they can get their movie made in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's that sort of like connection with this stuff, but I think streaming services can be a great way for especially indie developers possibly to get their stuff known, unless like Steam, they just dump 50 games all in one day and there's no way to sort through it all, which is what I'm concerned about, especially for indie devs, just kind of getting visibility with this stuff.
Yeah, and I linked to this article from Inverse where they got to speak to some people at the Indiecade booth at E3 who had some opinions about subscription services, and just wanted to throw a few of these out. Here's one that says, quote, "It's nerve-wracking because when subscription services have been introduced to most other entertainment industries, indie musicians and movie makers have been like, well, we're not making money anymore." This is from Victoria Tran. Quote, "I'm not really sure what will happen with indie game subscriptions, but I think monetization is going to be based on how long games are played. Will we have to make the game infinitely long?" End quote. And this sentiment is kind of shared throughout this article, with indie game makers being like, look, we struggle to monetize our games to begin with because really you have to go viral in order for you to make any kind of money in game development. But now where you've got, especially your first party, your EAs, especially not EA, I'm sorry, your Microsofts, especially having to pad out their services with a volume of games, sweeping up these indie games, like I think it's going to completely alter the economics of games in a way that we haven't seen them altered before. You know, we've lived through multiple iterations of monetization in games. It used to be you paid your $60 to $90 for your cartridge, that was your game. Then it turned into, oh, well, you buy your game, you can buy a season pass and get DLC. Then we've had microtransactions and those sorts of things. And now all of a sudden we're going to be getting subscription services. And is it going to impact the kind of games that we're going to see coming out of the indie space because of the way that they're going to be monetized?
Yeah, I worry. So we've had such a big shift toward games as services. And my thought is just that everything's going to move that way even more rapidly. Because if I'm competing with all these other services, then I need to lock people in. The best way to lock people in is not to have like contained experiences, but to have a service that they're locked into, get them locked into the feedback loop. And not that I think those types of games are bad necessarily, but I think it's going to be a lot harder for the other types of games to thrive. And that worries me.
Yeah.
I do wonder at the same time if your game is a part of a subscription service where people are already paying their money, and whoever's distributing these games in the streaming service are already getting their money through subscription. Might they be more inclined to take a risk on a more self-contained experience if they are the ones developing or publishing it themselves? Because then it doesn't really matter. You're getting your money regardless. The publisher or the streaming service owner is already getting their money. So why not? It might draw more people in for a certain amount of time, like how people would just, for the duration that Game of Thrones was on, would just throw their money at HBO for that subscription. Or it could be a way to hook people in, and then they find these games that will keep them hooked in for longer. The part that I'm worried about is how you make your money as a dev. If people are just throwing their $10 a month at a company that's not you.
Yeah, because it's not like a music streaming platform, right, where you get paid for every time it's played, right? And I don't know how monetization on Netflix or anything like that works. There's things like I scroll through Netflix and I'm like, why the hell do people make half of the stuff that's on here? Like, who watches this?
Well, they have algorithms that tell them exactly who watches it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, so it's just crazy to me. Let's go to the chat here. What have we got from the chat?
So Ninja Muffin says, I would be interested. You guys are talking about this already. How much the publishers will be taking away from indies using the Game Pass, and then goes on to say, because via Steam download, it's like 30 to 40% of profits, and then like 10% of anything bought in game. So I assume that person's referencing the
revenues.
the revenue
Yeah.
spike between games purchased and in-game transactions.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's kind of where I'm settling in on, is because I think even though your game may be included in a subscription service, if you have microtransactions within your game, then you have the capability of earning more off of it. That's what EA's hope is, right? Like, you come in and you play Anthem or whatever, and then you buy it, you spend money on the microtransactions in the game,
Or you more likely don't play Anthem.
or okay, FIFA.
Yeah.
You know, we'll give you access to play FIFA, but then we hope that you pay, hundreds of dollars to get FIFA Ultimate Team stuff. And so, are indie devs going to try to figure out more ways to put microtransactions into their games and try to claw back cost off of that?
I'm always okay with microtransactions if they're just like cosmetic stuff. Like, I don't have any problem with you can buy skins and stuff, or you can spend money on this legendary skin you can only get in this week or whatever. But the issue, I think that all of us would agree, is the pay and play kind of system that microtransactions bring to games. My hope would be that indie games wouldn't see that as an opportunity to say, I'll give you this $5, or I'll give you this free game, but in order to get past the third level, you have to pay $5. That kind of thing.
But the problem is that when your payment for a game is based fully off of engagement with it from the platform that you're deciding to be on, let's just say Game Pass, for instance. When the issue is that if you're basically putting your game out for free, which at the end of the day is essentially what indie game developers are probably going to be doing on these platforms, you've got to figure out more ways to monetize than just, hey, check out this cool skin, and I don't know, I think we're going to see some really, really bad models, and I think but I think we're also going to get some cool adaptations around it too.
Yeah, I think they'll have to. That's just the way it's always gone. I think publishers make the decisions, and then indies have to adapt to it.
Yeah. And then the other concern I have is the concern I have with television streaming services. And that's that, so the whole thing is I'm a cord cutter. I've only got Netflix. I've only got Hulu. And now it's like, holy shit, cutting the cord is going to be more expensive than keeping the cord with cable, And if we start having all of these subscription services, let's do the math real quick, right? So we do Game Pass Ultimate for $15 a month. We do Origin Access. There's another 15, so we're at 30. We do, let's say Uplay Plus is probably going to be another 15. We're at 45. What am I missing here? The Apple one I think is $10 a month. So you're at 55. What's that?
All your video streaming too.
Then all your video streaming. But you're at a brand new game a month just to have access to the subscription services, right? And are you really going to play? I guess a lot of people will play 12 brand new releases on those.
They'll start
them at least. But I worry that we're going to reach this critical mass to where it's I'm already paying for Netflix, Hulu, Apple Music, Spotify, whatever I have you on this end. I just want my media where this is going to make me sound like the old man. I just want my media where I can buy the shit and have it and play it and it be it,
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because talking about the ways that games differ from movies and television, you could buy one game for the entire year, and if that game is Red Dead or that game is Fallout 4 or something, that could be your game for the year.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that, especially if it's Apex, FIFA, Madden, that, or Call of Duty, that might be your game for the year. And so I think people, because of the amount of time that you can sink into a game, I'm less inclined to subscribe to multiple services, whereas I'm more inclined to subscribe to Netflix, Hulu, which I get for free through Spotify. What's another? Amazon Prime, which you're getting other bonuses with that as well, like Disney Plus, Apple, whatever the fuck they're calling it.
Apple Arcade.
No, I'm talking about their TV.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I'm more inclined to subscribe to more of those because I know I will consume more of that content on a regular basis because I consume, and might just be me, but I also, you'll binge watch through a whole show and then you'll find another show to watch. I think we just consume that medium.
Yeah, it's called The Office.
I don't watch The Office repeatedly. My brother does. I know he's single-handedly put more hours into that show than I think the rest of us combined.
I don't know. Ben can give you the whole
several times.
Ben can give you the whole first season shot for shot.
Ben's
sure he
been
can.
binging The Office since before you could binge it on Netflix.
Yeah.
Time truly is a flat circle.
I own all the DVDs. So, Milky says, I just saw an article on Cheddar called "Media Connies are turning streaming back into cable."
Yeah.
It has very good points about how expensive streaming will become with just a few services.
Yeah, and this was sort of what I was talking about before. I think, especially with television, and games will somewhat resemble this, but especially with television, everything will become siloed and resemble much like it did with what we had with cable, where to the point where I think cutting your cord will be
Just
more expensive, if not, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think
even-
we'll see something. I think then we'll see whatever the next thing is after that, attempt to replace it in some disruptive way, just like Netflix originally did.
All right, I'm going to pass it to Larry here.
Sorry, go ahead.
And the thing that cable companies don't seem to be thinking through is one side effect of streaming taking off was that piracy plummeted. Well, now that you're going to make it harder, piracy is going to skyrocket again. So I would be concerned about a little bit of that in gaming, but I think it's a little more challenging to pirate games than it is to pirate television, fortunately.
Well, even like we bought cable again for I don't know 3 months ago or something. But they included Netflix in our cable package, and so
Bold choice.
Rather than cutting the cord, I just got to my Netflix for free, pretty much. I mean, basically, because I was saving more money on my DirecTV package, and so I wonder if consoles don't go that route with their live subscriptions at some point.
Well, that's what Game Pass Ultimate is, right? Like you can pay for your live subscription and you get
this is
Game Pass
news to
with it.
me.
Yeah.
Ben's like, I didn't watch any of E3.
And to be honest, it is an excellent deal.
Yeah, it is a
That's
great
amazing.
deal. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a weird future, and it's funny because the 2 things we've been seeing trending in the gaming world are almost like at odds with one another, because on the one hand we have all these subscription services that are like subscribe to me, subscribe to me, subscribe to me, but then we have this whole other world where we have games as services where it's like we want you to have your one game that you play at all times. Like, you are not a video game player, you are a Destiny player, you know?
Yeah, and some of those companies are the ones with streaming services, which seems sort of strange, but it makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, if you think about it, like if you can get a FIFA player to sign up for Origin Access, which I don't even know if you can play FIFA on PC, but I know you can with Madden.
Probably.
Let's say you get a Madden player on Origin Access because they want the 10% discount they're going to get on Madden Ultimate Team cards. You're taking somebody who would have spent $60 on just the base game, and you're spreading that out to $15 a month for the entire year, which, whatever 12 times 15 is, $180 just for the subscription, not including the Madden Ultimate Team he's going to play. So, yeah, I can see.
It's more engagement.
Because those people will buy it. They're like, look, I really only play Madden, but it'll be cool to be able to jump into Battlefield or, do this or do that.
It's like Office viewers.
Yeah. Like, I'm doing this exclusively for The Office, but I guess we'll watch Stranger Things.
Leave us alone.
Cool. All right. Anything else you guys want to mention on this topic?
No, I think it's just super interesting.
All right.
Stuff.
Well, let's move on to everybody's favorite segment. The random question of the week for the month for this week.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Player 3 Podcast. I'm your host, Ben. We are.
What is happening?
I'm busting through the fourth
I
wall.
just texted Ben and asked if he could come up with a random question for us.
I'm busting through the fourth wall to bring you your favorite segment.
I hate you. I hate you for bringing that jingle back.
Actually,
I hate you for
it's
writing
random
that
question of the
jingle.
week, but in the spirit of me being on the podcast, I have two questions for you.
Oh, Cody, you're new here. This is a
I really
classic.
am.
This is a classic Ben move. Ben is always. We're always like, all right, Ben, what are your top 3 favorite candies? And he's always like, well, let me break this down into the 15 categories of candy that there are.
I do that too.
You have sweet with nuts, but no nougat.
I have one question that could be fairly shallow, and then I have one question that could be fairly deep. So
Rose Leslie.
You want the shallow question or the deep question first?
What? I vote shallow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start
All right,
shallow.
so
then
if you could
cannonballing.
buy into the streaming philosophy, and I know the Office isn't a sitcom, but I like to view it as one.
Hey, hold on one second, Ben. Roy Speedrun has a random question of the week in the chat here for us. He says, "Are Ben and Luke brothers?" You would think that. Ben did live at my house for like 2 weeks straight, multiple times.
A fortnight, if you will.
A fortnight, if you will. Fortnite can't hold a candle to the fortnight Ben used to spend in my basement.
This is before I was married. So.
Yeah, before either of us were married.
Yes, we're gonna leave it to your imagination, Roy Speedrun.
Before we got married to the grind.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Did you say that the Office is not a sitcom?
I guess it could be. It's more of a document.
It's a situation comedy.
It's a it is a sitcom.
It's a fakecumentary.
It's called a mockumentary. There's a word for it, and there's a word for another. There's also a word for what kind of show it is, which is a sitcom.
It's not a sitcom. Though.
It is.
It's a situational comedy.
Well, but I know, but it's like
You're thinking of a.
I'm thinking of I'm thinking about like Family Matters or.
You're thinking of something with a laugh track.
It's a broad.
Yeah, sitcom's a very large.
Okay. Well, then maybe it's a sitcom. So in the
I will concede that it is possibly.
This is already off to a great start.
In the spirit of The Office not being a sitcom, but maybe being a sitcom, if you could be a member of any TV sitcom family, which family would it be?
Oh, this is a great question.
I don't like most sitcoms.
He doesn't like coffee. He doesn't like beer.
Why are you even
He doesn't
here?
like sitcoms.
Wait,
Are
hold
you?
on.
My charming personality.
I'm picking a family
My
to
boy
be a part of
looks.
in a sitcom or a sitcom to
It could be
in.
since you say The Office is a sitcom, which I disagree.
But the audacity of us
Since you
to
say
believe
it's a
that
sitcom.
a situational comedy is a sitcom.
Well, I'll say it can broaden your horizons past family. So you could, if you want to be in The Office, like that was my choice. If you say the sitcom
Let's look at the Wikipedia
family.
page for a second.
Oh, no.
But
Hold on, Ben. We're
Yep.
going to give the mic to Cody for a second.
The Office is an American television sitcom that aired on NBC.
anybody can put stuff on Wikipedia. Anybody can put entries there.
Oh, someone.
So if that's a sitcom, The Office would be my answer. But if it's not a sitcom,
Let's just stick with sitcom. We
then
can
All
do
in
it.
the
It's
Family,
fine.
All in the Family would be the sitcom that I would be in because I would want to punch that old guy in the face. I can't remember his name. But if I was in his family, I could punch him in the face and it'd be okay. Archie Bunker.
All in the Family is also a sitcom.
I know, that's why I picked
Oh,
it
okay. I
as
thought you
my
said-
actual sitcom
got
answer
it,
because The
okay,
Office isn't a sitcom.
So you had a clarifying question, Larry.
Yeah. And, Too Many Cooks, that's up there, but that's not the one I want to be.
It's a huge family.
So I'd be in Boy Meets World. That was the finest of sitcoms ever made.
Corey.
Mr. Feeney could give me guidance, and I could have friends that were friends forever.
If the Lord's
If the Lord's the Lord of them.
and a friend will not send
I'm trying to remember if this is it. Hold on.
At the end of our camp week, the kids were demanding more songs to dance to, and Ben hit them with that.
Yeah.
Milky says punching Archie Bunker is tight.
All caps. No cap.
It really is.
All caps, no cap.
So I would probably pick, as Cody was trying to spoil here, because he was looking over my shoulder at my phone.
I just hear that title and it immediately.
The
has Spidey sense.
the sweet life of Zach and Cody. They were getting up to all those shenanigans. And are we picking our role in this family too?
Sure, you can. I don't care. Yeah. One of the brothers.
They're probably just their stepdad. I'll probably just be their stepdad. No. That's the point. Why would I come in and be a character that's already on the show?
A character to be?
No. You're just in the family. You're just
in the family. I'm picking my role in the family.
That's fine. Yeah, sure.
And I would be the stepfather, right?
Yeah.
Because they live in this dope ass suite, right? But I can be like, they're not my kids. I don't have to. The twins, they're a handful, right? Just let them run amok. Let the mom handle it.
Sure.
I'm just living it up in this sweet ass penthouse. So that would be my choice.
Okay.
I would totally be the straight man in the Arrested Development family. I would be the
Okay, I didn't know that.
No, like straight man as in there's the straight man in comedy. You don't understand anything. Wow.
It's like the bird.
to him what a straight man is. This is also the dude that was
Have you watched?
And then I'm going to explain to you the greatest joke in television history.
This is also the guy who was like, did Mel Brooks direct The Passion of the Christ?
Very different film.
It would be a very different movie.
Very different tone. Oh my
Do you
gosh.
know? Have you watched Arrested Development?
Like half an episode, maybe.
Do you know Jason Bateman's character?
He's like the sane person.
Yes, that's the straight.
Okay,
man.
okay.
The one around which, like, everybody who's not, he's the one who's not kooky.
Okay. So you'd be Jason Bateman.
I'd be Jason Bateman.
So have you watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yes.
So Captain Holt is the straight man.
Yes.
And it's one of the greatest jokes in television history.
Because he is gay.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
But he
okay.
plays the straight man.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
That's why I took it at least.
Someone learned something today.
Ninja Muffin says would watch that Mel Brooks film.
I
And
would
Roy
too.
Speedrun signs off on it. Notorious Narwhal wants to know, not the one where they're on the boat. No, not the one where they're on the boat. I'm not trying to live on a boat. You see all those videos of those cruise ships breaking down and people are like shitting in buckets and stairwells and stuff. I'm not trying to live that
Drinking
life.
I've never
seawater.
seen that, but
You've never seen that?
Eating
No,
normal
I
Oh,
think
things.
dude, there was like a summer where like 3 cruise ships lost power out in the middle of
I
the
think it was
ocean.
just one.
No. There was a summer of multiple fake news.
Wrong.
Roy Speedrun says, I would be Frank's lost brother, and it's
yeah,
always
always
sunny.
sunny is a good answer.
I'm changing my answer. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like, I could participate in the Halloween heist.
I just don't see that as a sitcom.
It is a sitcom. Ben, just because you don't see it as something doesn't mean it isn't the thing. All right,
Most
what's your
television comedies are sitcoms.
what's your if it's not animated, it's probably a sitcom.
Okay.
A good example of that is NCIS.
Yes. My favorite sitcom.
Just kidding.
All right, and then you want my second question?
Hold on.
Cody
Let's
hasn't
see.
answered.
Yeah,
No,
you did.
Ninja Muffin's response to the Mel Brooks film, I think it would be the movie adaptation of Lamb, the story of Jesus' best friend named Biff by Christopher Moore.
That's a really cool book.
Is it
That's
really
a shout out.
thing?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
The church approved it. Surprising.
Luke is not about that shit in a bucket.
Is anyone
I don't know. Let's take a vote. Anyone into that?
sound off?
Like, I don't know. It's
What,
not a
pooping
deal
in a
breaker.
bucket?
Is
I don't-
that
I'm
the
okay with
only
it.
bad thing about being on the boat, or are there other hardships?
You get a bunch of food. Like, it's a bunch of food that you get to eat.
Look, I want to.
Your rations are crab legs, man.
What is a toilet but a fancy bucket?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I
Look,
guess maybe. if
you
it
know what
broke
I
down,
want to do?
they
I
will.
want to do a river cruise. I want to do a river cruise in Europe because if that shit breaks down, we can just swim ashore.
It costs a whole lot more too, and you don't speak the language. You're in Italy, and your ship breaks down.
Look,
and you
everybody
go
on the
into
boat will
into
speak
Everybody
English
on the boat will
countryside.
speak English. Okay, let's see. Mad Brock says Gilligan's Island is a sitcom.
Yeah.
Are we just naming sitcoms
We're
in
just
the chat?
defining sitcom.
Which I guess if there's any group of people that need that explained to them, we've got at least a portion of that
It's
group
true.
here.
True.
All right, what is your deep question?
So the deep question is, we've talked a lot about technology and about how it's impacted people and the adverse effects or positive effects that it could have on people. And so my question is, if you could disinvent anything, what would it be and why?
Ooh, this is a great question.
And now you're not disinventing it so you can reinvent it. You're
Oh, damn it.
you're just disinventing.
The answer is definitely not hit clips.
Nukes. Like, I feel like everything would be different if that wasn't. What?
It's such a good answer that we can't answer anything different from that now because then we
that
just
is
come
a
up with
good
that.
answer.
Okay, well,
we seem
you
like
all have the
assholes.
we'll do it this way. You all have the opportunity to disinvent something. You'll all have the opportunity.
Okay, so
Larry
we-
has chosen his as selflessly to disinvent nukes.
I mean, it's not selfless. I don't want to die in a nuclear blast.
Wait, are we this is a
true.
piece of technology we're disinventing or just something?
Mr. 76 over here.
But then I don't have a game because nobody knows what Fallout is, right?
That's true.
Never mind. Leave nukes on the table.
Just for the game.
I mean, I would imagine anything that's been invented would be considered technology, though. At some
Yeah.
point, like
Yeah,
at
yeah.
some point, like
the wheel.
I was going to say
technology.
capitalism.
was you would disinvent
Yeah.
capitalism.
The wheel is technology.
Would you say capitalism was
That's an
invented?
ideal. But yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
it was iterated on. It was certainly a concept.
But Ben's question was disinvent technology.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Let's do
specifically.
let's do technology. What would I disinvent? Nukes is such a good answer. Great job, Blake.
Matt Brock says, but then the brutality of war increases. And while he's right, I feel like there's something about having to look at the person that you're killing that, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to do it, you should feel it.
If you can, well, also if you can just push a button and end an entire city, I think actively having to engage and like have people on the ground.
I laughed at a very inappropriate time, but Milky said disinvents racism.
That's not technology, although there is technology involved with it.
Oh man, this is hard because I use so much technology in my life. So now, because my first thought was not what technology is going to ultimately lead to my demise, but more what technology annoys me. Do you have your answer?
I'm trying to think.
Do you have your answer, Ben? What would you disinvent?
I didn't think long enough about my answer. Maybe Uber Eats.
Yeah, I'm a DoorDash man.
Just the whole concept of that.
Yeah, just Uber
Like
Eats
food
annoys
delivery
me.
in general?
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy the experience of going to the restaurant to apply for my food.
Oh, I know what I would disinvent. I don't know if this is. It's not a technology though. It's an ideal. I was gonna say like big box stores. I'd like disinvent Walmarts because I just hate Walmart in general.
Yeah.
And it destroys local economies.
Yeah, it destroys local economies, things like that. But again, it's not a technology.
No.
So I don't know.
So what technology could you disinvent to destroy big box stores?
Debit.
The diesel engine. The diesel engine.
I think that impacts more than just big box stores.
We would have to locally grow everything.
Yeah.
How awesome would that be, though?
We had to locally grow everything.
We got gardens in the
We
backyard.
had 4 rosemary plants out in this garden box that lasted about a week. So I'm not all for
Maybe
the
if
grow
we're
it
gonna
yourself life.
in line with Larry, we're just gonna go down the chain. Then I'd say guns.
Oh, okay.
So
There we
now
go.
you gotta sword people up.
Yeah.
But are there still normal
Which is the-
bombs?
Which is the technical term.
bombs.
Just swords and bombs.
Swords and bombs.
Dude, did we just make a new game? Can you imagine that video game?
Swords and bombs.
Swords and bombs? It's either
feel like
full-on
there's-
melee.
It's
Why
like,
would you ever choose the swords if you had bombs?
Well, you gotta fight through.
Disinvent the ukulele. Royd Speedrun says. I
Feels like a personal
disagree
attack.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it feels like a personal attack.
Nah, I'm on the gun train with you too. I think that's a
gun
good
Especially
train.
in
That's
the US.
another
And then
fun
I
game.
guess I will say, disinvent the sword.
So nobody had to
just
punch people
bombs.
to death.
This-
Just bombs and
just
punching people to death.
This eliminates so many cool action movies.
It's bombs and clubs.
You still got bows and arrows. You can shoot bombs with your bow, like small bow bombs.
Oh, there's still Apache helicopters as well.
Oh yeah.
What do they do? They just have
They just
blade
fly
you.
around.
They
the
can
rise?
flip upside down.
You got to be
Giant
real
armor.
good. You got to be real good.
I had this professor in college who talked all the time about being in Vietnam and like flying his plane real low and trying to like catch people up in it. We're pretty sure that he was making all this shit up. He's like, we'd have to
he's-
get back and we just have to, or he's a psychopath.
He's a war criminal.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really don't have an answer to this question because I love so much technology.
aglets. I think
And
their
it's-
shoelaces should fall apart. It's unnatural to let them continue indefinitely.
The scarf is also a technology that I would disinvent.
The scarf.
There's just never an opportunity where it makes sense. Like, just wear a turtleneck or a
No.
coat. Yeah.
Oh, I would disinvent Facebook.
Ooh,
That's a good one.
Yeah, okay.
I'll go. Facebook is an invention. It is a machine.
Yeah, it's technology.
Yeah.
do you want to have nukes, Cody? I've got another one.
Sure.
Deep fakes, super creepy.
Oh, yeah.
That junk's gonna cause lots of problems in this world.
Yes.
Virginia
Deepfakes.
is passing a law on that.
Yeah.
What even
Yeah.
is this? What is
Goes
deepfakes?
into effect
So
on
there
July
is
1st.
there's an algorithm now where you just put somebody's images into a computer and you can overlay their face on someone else's face and make it look like they're the ones participating in the
It's
actions.
often used for revenge
Oh.
porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you can't really tell that it's not really the person.
Wow.
But so that's its main use now, and that's terrible enough. But there are plenty of other potential
You could use it for
applications.
so many nefarious political means.
Fake
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. Actual
Fake
fake news.
news. Yeah, Mad Brock says that Adam's Family is a sitcom. So
Disinvent
let's-
the ascot.
Mad Brock says.
that's what I was Milky. That's what I was trying to say, and then I couldn't think of what an ascot was. So I just said scarves. I just defaulted to
Scarves
scarves.
have a purpose.
Yeah, I feel bad about myself.
But then what would Freddy wear if there's no ascot?
Does he wear an ascot?
Yeah.
You're talking about from Scooby Doo?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be honest. I forgot his name was Freddy until this very moment.
I think I was talking about
Like Freddy from Friday the 13th.
Like Freddy from the Freddy Krueger. All right, guys,
We're off.
This show is off the rails. I don't even know how long this episode has been. What time is it?
It is.
it's time to do a giveaway.
Oh, it's time to do a giveaway. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll do. Let me end the stream. Let me end the show, and then we'll do the giveaway.
It's 5:47.
Guys, this has been PvA Radio episode 46. We appreciate you tuning in. This is the show where we get together. Each of us brings one of the biggest gaming news stories of the week to the table. Then we have an in-depth discussion about it. Consider it your collaborative audio feature article, if you will. And Cody, what do we want people to do with that?
Spam that emote and then tattoo it on your dog if you can.
But only if the dog says it's okay.
Yeah, only with consent.
Exactly.
I don't give a shit about the cats.
But let's get out of here. Who are you? Where can people find you? What are you going to be tweeting about this week? Larry, let's start with you.
I am Larry. You can find me on Twitter at LarHuntsZombies, LarHunts Zombies. And this week on my Twitter, you will find lots of things that the youth are experiencing that just don't hold a candle to my version of it.
All right.
I'm Cody. You can find me on Twitter at ProElectioneer. What will I be tweeting about this week? Probably not much because I got way too much work to do this week.
All right. And I'm Luke Croft. You can find me on Twitter at Hoagie_OW. And this week, you can see me tweeting out deepfake videos of Donald Trump eating healthy food. So
we all
And I'm
want.
Notre Hankins. You can follow me on Twitter at Notre Hankins. I don't tweet, so follow me.
Ben retweeted me randomly like 3 weeks ago. I was like, what is happening?
You ever been retweeted by somebody who has a locked profile? And it's like, what are you doing, man? Why would you do this? Why would you do this to me? You have 6 followers. Why are you retweeting me to your locked followers? Anyway, this has been PvA Radio, guys. We get together every week. I already went through that spiel because I got off rhythm here for some reason. Ben just really threw me off here. But if you can't catch us live on twitch.tv/PvA Radio, you can listen to us on podcast services and also catch us on youtube.com/PvA Radio. We're going to get out of here, Ben. There should be a little thing called intro in there that you can transition to again. But until next week, guys, we love you. Goodbye. And then hit transition.
Why, that's the second biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Can I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Would you like me to go on shortwave radio?